Hey, so we're here in Nashville. I'm here with Eric Higgs, and he is the CEO, right? CEO of Boys and Girls Club of Middle Tennessee. And we're going to be talking about a whole lot of things today. We've got a lot to unpack and talk about, and we have a little bit of a tour. We did a little bit of like Regenerative Inspiration Cribs episode here, so you're going to be able to see that. The mayor was here as well, so we got him on the unveiling of a new playground. So pretty cool, you know, Mayor Nashville showing up. So thanks for coming today, Eric.
Thanks, man.
I'm here with Eric Higgs, and he is the head of the Boys and Girls Club of Middle Tennessee, correct?
Yeah.
And we're here in Nashville, and he's been showing me around. You're going to see a whole lot of that, actually, from a standpoint of like what they're doing with innovation, how they're looking at things, how they're tearing down some of the walls of what you might perceive as the Boys and Girls Club, but what people are getting from it now. And I think we've been talking about a whole lot of things, even AI and how that's being used, and you know, the cultural awareness of what we can do. We've been talking about Airbnb with culture. I mean, let's start with that, because that's actually pretty fun. That's a cool idea. So tell me your idea again.
No, I thought it was just funny when you think about culture. It's the one thing we all have. We all have culture. We've got something interesting. There's a food, there's a dance ceremony, there's a singing, there's songs, all of that, right? And I was just like, man, what if we could experience culture with people in some type of transferable way? The things you have are currency that means something on this marketplace, like an Uber or something. And you go out there and you say, hey, man, I actually put up my grandma, and she's going to cook with you. You can come and cook my grandma's favorite dressing recipe. Yeah. What's that worth? Oh, that's worth coming to Rome, man, and hanging out and watch the sunset. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. Yeah. So yeah, that whole notion of just experiencing one another through culture. Yeah. I think it'd be something that probably drive a lot of unity. I can already see it.
How does Grandma make the handmade tortillas?
Exactly right.
Let's get into that Persian wedding, and let's get the Indian wedding.
That's exactly right.
Get in the middle of Punjabi. Right. I mean, you know, there is a ton of stuff. I mean, and I think the beautiful thing about the U.S. is we have all those cultures blended together.
We do.
I was just in New York City a couple weeks ago, and I mean, just to see all the cultures blended together, working together, like it's clockwork. Yeah. I mean, it's just, and there's nothing, like somebody said, oh, what's your favorite city? And I don't even consider New York, like it's its own entity. Yeah. It's not even a city. Like it's not, like it's a city, it's a massive thing, but it's like, it has its own rhythm. That it doesn't care about anybody else, yes, right? And so, you know, kudos to New York City. You guys got something going on there. And I did have some really good coal-fired pizza, too. It was great.
But Chicago pizza's better. I'm saying.
And I know you're coming from Chicago, so I thought you'd take that.
I could throw that in there.
How thick? 3 inches?
You know, yeah. I do like our deep dish pizza, but I like our tavern style as well. You know, it's got a lot more cheese. It's a little bit more heft.
Now, do you have a favorite one?
Yeah, Giordano's.
Giordano's.
It's my favorite, man.
That's right. That's right downtown.
You got them right down.
Right by the river, right?
You got them south side. They're pretty much all over, man.
Okay. Which one's the best one, though? Because they're not always the same.
So, you know, I'm still a sucker for my one over in Hyde Park. That's where I went to high school. I got a lot of memories. So, you know, take a date, that kind of stuff. So for me, they're the best.
There it is.
They're still the best.
Now your brother's a chef too.
Yeah, well, my cousin Jordan, he's a chef. Actually, my entire family thinks that, especially the men, we think that we're the best chefs on the planet. Like me, I know nobody smokes anything barbecue better than me.
I got 5 briskets in my freezer right now.
We'll bust them out. I make the best sauce, all of that. But no, Jordan pursued a restaurant, became a restaurateur during the pandemic.
Okay.
You had an idea, he had a partner. They opened a spot in Chicago. They were reservations only, and they stayed reservations only. For a couple years, they moved to a much larger space, and now they've added on a restaurant in Houston.
Awesome.
So I'd say they're probably doing pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. He came and helped us kick off our new teaching kitchen.
Yeah, so talk to me about that, because, you know, I saw it was like sponsored by Sprouts.
Yes.
You know, to us, I mean, that's a huge thing. Like at the core, like what you put in your body is what you get. You know, if you put in good fuel, you're going to have a more like sustainable, good, disease-free life, but also better energy, right? Correct. Better turn energy.
No doubt.
Like people, like I see kids cranking these energy drinks down, and I'm like, you are just juicing your adrenals. Like think about your adrenals like an orange. You're just going. The thing is it just doesn't come right back out.
Right.
It is getting juice. So then you need 2, then you need 3, then you need 4. And I mean, stay away from those.
Yeah. So you are getting exactly what we want to do.
Yeah.
That whole teen center we just launched is about life and workforce ready. Got to be both. Got to be ready for life. Got to be ready to work and find something you're passionate about. But the life side of that is exactly what you're talking about. So Sprouts has been a great partner for us.
Well, school doesn't teach home ec and stuff anymore.
Well, at school, the home ec's not there, and really at home, a lot of times it's hard to find that time as well. I mean, parents have a lot going on and with activities and things. And so since food is a part of what we give our kids every time they come into the clubs, imagine now being a teenager, we want to help you be ready for the future. Well, being part of the future is I'd love for you to understand nutritious food.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to find some joy in finding some that you actually like the taste of and that it's easy for you to prepare. And then the other part of that program is, hey, and if you like it, we're going to show you aspects around ways you can make a career in the kitchen as well. So yeah, that's a big part. I grew up, I guess what was called the latchkey kid, and I learned to use the bottom of the roaster in the oven to make the grilled cheese sandwiches. And then I graduated to cinnamon toast, where you put the sugar, butter, and the cinnamon on there. And then, of course, I got to the top of stove, and I love to cook now. I mean, I'm about as gourmet as they come on the weekend. I love it. I love it.
I'm coming to your house.
That's right.
So, it's talking about that. I was taught how to make eggs by my mom when I was like 5, maybe 6. And because it was like back then, it wasn't really ADD or whatever. But like if you have good protein in the morning, you're going to have sustainable energy. If you're eating like sugary cereals that they'll last about a half hour and then you're like bouncing off the walls, then you want more sugar, right? But like she taught me how to make eggs. So I made 2 to 3 eggs every day, pretty much my life.
Yeah. I love it.
And I was so happy to see that the whole cholesterol study was debunked and has nothing to do with like, bad cholesterol or whatever. And I didn't care anyway, because I just liked eggs.
Like I'm doing it.
Yeah. It's like, I can make any egg you can imagine. But that's awesome. So we talked about a couple other things too. So you've got a STEM lab here, which we're in.
Yep.
And you've talked about, we have, what are the things? You have multiple different things from a standpoint of, let's talk about the STEM lab first, because you made some innovations and you did some stuff with AI too.
Yeah. I mean, in the STEM lab, any space can be what you want it to become with the right imagination. So in this STEM lab, we of course got computers and things. We do homework, tutoring help in here. And inside these large metal locker cabinets, we have all types of stuff, from Spiros robots to Apple iPads to, fun science experimentation, which is great. We have a lot of fun on it. But I believe just like space and environment has an impact, if you can really get really clear on what's your intention in your STEM lab, what do you want them to teach? What do you want them to learn and see and experience? And then if you can get it simply set up in a way where it's easy to find what you want, easy to do the experiments, and easy to clean back up, that's my manufacturing world. I spent about 10 years in plant operations. So if you were looking for a wrench and you had to send production out the door and you couldn't find a wrench, that's a bad thing. But yeah, that's what we've been doing. But yeah, I recently I wrote a grant to help redefine what the STEM lab looked like in one of these rooms, what exactly we want the kids to experiment with. And then in our school sites, it's a bigger challenge because we don't have dedicated space. How do we then design something that's portable, but still has the same type of intent and we can operate from it? And so, yeah, I used AI to help design those things. And I mean, when I think about AI, I think about it as my trusted agency partner. And I talk to it. I tell them what my dreams and wishes are. I talk to it about, here's the things that I want and desire, but here's the barriers that I have right now. And so therefore, I need a solution that will look like this. Yeah. And yeah, I know that there's lots of fears about AI, but for me, it's an enabler because we don't always have the funds to go directly to a brief and an agency and people and the time on that. But with something now like that that's iterative, I can iterate for 30 minutes or an hour. And in this case, I actually found a very inspiring concept that we've positioned in a brief to a partner who ideally is going to give us the funds to help us go do that. So for me, that innovation, I'm thinking about tools that help us become more efficient. I don't like the notion of artificial intelligence. That scares me. But the notion of something that augments my intelligence, where I'm putting intelligence in and getting an augmented intelligence out, yeah, that's like a calculator. I use it all the time.
I love that. And I know we talked about like potentially having some AI classes here too,
Yes.
where you're starting with, the good, the bad, the ugly, but then you get into like actually how do you utilize that as a tool and give it the right directions.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Prompt engineering. We want our kids to understand what you put in, the quality of what you put in dictates the quality of what comes out. And that's a part of education.
Yeah.
But we also want them to understand the ethical use of it, just like the ethical use of things that you're doing in a traditional classroom. You've got a new tool. You've got to understand what its limitations are, what are the parts that you should and shouldn't be doing in it as well.
Right. So talk about, we went through the gym, there was a transition, and there's an area where, I feel like you're 100% right. Like you have kids that come in from what, 4 to
5 to 18.
5 to 18. So that is a huge group. And like 16, 17, 18-year-olds don't think it's cool to be around, little kids. Right? I already get that with my 14.
Yeah.
It's like,
Exactly.
But what did you do? Because there's a transition point.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that, because it is a psychological thing. And I think you articulated it brilliantly.
Yeah. Well, first, when I joined about 5 years ago, during the pandemic, I did host some focus groups with my teens. And it was the biggest barrier they talked about. Hey, at some point, you got to realize, what teenager wants to come into a place with 5 and 6-year-olds that you're sharing space with. It's like, I get it. So once we got clear that we wanted to get a teen center, we got their input on what should be in it. When we started to build this thing and we finalized it and it's now final, the biggest concept I wanted to deal with, I didn't want it to be some private thing that the younger kids never saw anymore. There was talks around giving them to get separate interests where they get a private side and they don't have to see it. And I'm like, no, everyone should come to the same door. Same door. Those teenagers have to walk through the front, through the game room where all the young kids are, through the gymnasium where all the young kids are, into their space that has glass doors that everyone can see in. Because I want the young kids to be like, what's going on in there? So it's now switched from a typical 12, 13-year-old starting to go to high school. They're already dealing with that idea like, hey, Mom, I got the fact that I had to go to Boys and Girls Club. Now I'm good. Mm-hmm. I'm on the sports team. I'll do good. Do I have to go? To now, the 12 and 13s, you're like, when did we get to go in there?
I love it.
When can we come in?
I love it.
Yes, and I love it. I think there is a psychology to that.
There 100%.
It should be something that they aspire to.
Yeah. Well, I love it because like the little ones are looking up, and they're like, okay, I want to be like that.
Of course, what you do, you go to the teen center over there.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Perfect. But not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Illiterate. Not yet.
So what are some of the other innovations? Because, you came from a corporate background, right? And so tell me how you got there. And then, because you grew up in Chicago.
Yeah. Well, first I'd say I came from a wonderment background. Everything was a wonder.
Yeah.
When I left Chicago, Southside, and went to University of Illinois, I believe I switched my degree from biology to chemistry to mechanical engineering to eventually chemical engineering.
Okay.
So it was just this winding interest. What should I do? Why should I do? And literally that's what it was. And then I was fortunate enough to get internships. And a lot of what I wound up doing was because I experienced something I knew I did not want to do. Like I knew I did not want to design ceiling diffusers.
Yeah.
Because one of my internships was about that.
Okay.
And eventually
somebody loves that.
Somebody loves it. And actually, if I was in HVAC right now, I might not be sitting here because they make a lot of good money. But no, I eventually started working for Procter Gamble, and I was making paper in a paper plant in Green Bay. And I started learning some really cool things about leadership and motivating people. And a lot of that stuff became transferable. And I was feeling really good and excited about my career until I got shipped to Canada. I was going to Canada. It was an exciting new career. We were going to rebuild the plant with U.S. technology because they were going to go compete in the Canadian market. Yeah. Deal is, 3 months later, I was told we're going to sell the plant. And I said, how do you go from rebuild, rally, build a team to sell the plant? Who sees what information that I'm not seeing to make that call? And that's why I eventually wound up in brand marketing.
Yeah.
Got my MBA part.
That's Procter Gamble.
Brand marketing with Procter & Gamble, and kind of fell in love, man, because it had strategy and it had development and it had brand building and new product offerings and strategy and innovation. And what I found, because I left there, went to Kimberly-Clark, went to Bridgestone, is that rhythm of things, the brand essence, what you stand for, are you serving something good and big, and how do you bring new products and keep it exciting? That stuff is the same everywhere.
And you were a president at
Yes, I was the president of the truck division.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But I got a phone call. It changed everything from Boys and Girls Clubs, looking for a CEO.
So let's back up for a second. So you were fully employed.
Fully employed.
Boys and Girls Club somehow found you.
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
Well, it was the pandemic. I had made a shift in roles, so I was moving from the business side back to marketing. I was to succeed the chief marketing officer, so I had accepted a new role. There were a lot of publications out there about, hey, here's the changes. I was one of the changes in two new roles. And all I know is they called me several times. And when I asked the recruiter, how did you find me? They said that they had been working with some consultants on what makes transformational Boys and Girls Clubs across the nation. And they said it led to a model of a transformational leader that I fit. Thought it was intriguing.
Yeah.
The other piece was, I said, yeah, but how do you even know that I care about the community and kids? And they said, well, we see it in your posts on LinkedIn and the things that you're proud of in your career. You're proud of the things that you did in the community. I said, yeah, you kind of got me. Yeah. It's exactly me. And just the environment, what was going on in the pandemic at the time, George Floyd, and the unrest that was happening in the country really had me doing a lot of soul searching of saying, look, you're not going to work forever. Let's say you're going to work for another 10 years.
Yeah.
What would you want to do? What if you could call it, what would you want to do to spend those 10 years? And I pondered on that a lot. And then I talked about the money, it's a big difference and all of that. And eventually my wife says, okay, look, we're going to be fine. But if I reframe the question for you, maybe this helps. I said, what? She said, you keep talking about 10 years. What if you had 10 years to live? What would you do? And I thought about it, and it was pretty easy at that point. I was like, if I were 10 years, I mean, I want to make sure I'm spending it on purpose. I want to make sure that it makes a difference, that it makes a big impact. And again, I always thought that that's what I was doing in corporate, but that was the logic and the thought process. So I took a role during the pandemic when the world was closed. I started up in an office that I never saw other than on video. And the first task was to open up in an environment where you can't be around each other. Serve kids.
Yes, some challenge there.
So that's what
definitely some challenge.
Yeah, so it was exciting, a lot of fun, a lot of change. I thrive on change and growth and that. And we launched a new strategy called Dub 100 by 2026. We wanted to double number of youth we were serving. We wanted them 100% ready for their great future, and we've been on that path. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I could tell from just a few of the people that we interacted with on the way in and out, like how much respect there is and how much it's changed people's lives, which is awesome. And that's a testament, right? I started the idea of this podcast in 2019, right after I should have died in an avalanche, right? It was like there was multiple different events that happened, but like it was that precipice of saying, well, what if I wasn't here? What would my kids know about me? What impact have I made that's significant? And like, I think all of us want to make more of a significant impact. And I think sometimes we're just too, I had a lot of different reasons why we got derailed. Yep. But it's like, finally just push through it and make it happen. And I think there's a lot of people out there, they're saying the same thing, and saying, hey, I can do more. And they're not happy with what they're doing. And honestly, I think they should shift, but you have to do it responsibly, right? So you thought about it, you made sure everybody's on board with it, but do you feel more fulfilled now, or would you rather go back and work for Bridgestone?
It's been 5 years and growing.
You're not going back?
No, not going.
Hey, Bridgestone called. Hey, Bridgestone's on the phone. Come on.
No. I think there's still work to do here. Yeah, I do. I think there's still work to do.
Well, you talked earlier about thinking you were growing up in Chicago and you'd see your friends later on, 30 years later, and how that shifted. But I feel like you have that here now.
Yeah. Definitely, you don't know you're doing. That's one of the things my wife talks to me about, is learning to just enjoy the ride a little bit more. I tend to be that planner that sets these big goals, and 5 years later I'm there, and I'm kind of like, yeah, now what do I do? And she's like, if you actually take the time to enjoy the journey, you won't say, now what I'm going to do. You're going to remember all of the things you've gone through, the wins, the successes, the small moments, and that lead to it. So I am working on that.
Yeah.
But the area that I was going to go back to you talking is Martha White Warren. She was a mentor of mine, passed away, but she's the sweetest woman on the planet. She would always say that the universe cooperates with a made-up mind. And so it didn't matter what I was going through. She would just say, hey, so what do you want to do? It's like, I want to do this. She's like, then make up your mind. Because once you do it, the universe is going to get in line. It's going to get in line. Provisions are going to be there. So you just got to make up your mind and speak your mind. So a lot of what you were talking about of, yeah, I want to do it, but I'm not sure about it. I think of that quote. And so with career pivots and things like that, I've never been that afraid because of that. I kind of think about it and say, well, no, if I make up my mind, the universe is going to cooperate with it.
Yeah.
It's going to all fall in place.
So what would you tell, I mean, we always talk about different adversity. Is there a story of adversity that you've gone through that maybe some people know or don't know? I mean, as long as you're willing to share it, is there anything that you have that like maybe took you from one point to another that impacted your life significantly?
Wow. I mean, there are things that I go back on, like, I don't know if they exactly answer the moment, but when I switched from manufacturing over to marketing, I mean, that was a tough switch for me because I kind of thought I was a bigwig in manufacturing. You know, I had organizations of 600 people in these plants and things, and, you know, I could make some calls on some things. And when I switched to marketing, it was humbling. I was N of one.
You get to tell yourself what to do.
Brand new assistant brand manager in a very tough culture. Not tough in that they were mean. It was just very structured. They had a very point of view, very pointed point of view. P&G felt like they invented brand building, and this is how you do it. Right down to if you're talking to an agency and you did a creative brief on a packaging project, this is how you give them feedback. First, you say thank you. Next, you reinforce the brief and what you were solving for. Then you tell them what delivered in the brief, and then you set up the opportunities for it. You will speak first because you are the most junior person. It will be followed by the next in line and next in line. And I remember once just trying to insert myself after my director had spoken, said, hey, that reminds me of something else I wanted to think about. Now all the eyes cut over on me like, dude, you don't do that. And fortunately, I had a mentor who was higher up in the company. He just said, look, I know the culture seems pretty rough, but he said, a lot of it is very intentional. He said, for instance, if I gave the first round of comments, that creative agency wouldn't listen to anyone else because they know at the end of the day, I make the call. So by allowing you to go first with a smart comment, you'll influence my thinking. I said, really? And so I started to just kind of build this thing. And I think the lesson I got from it, and maybe everybody wouldn't got this lesson, is every new environment you go to, there is a culture. There is a way of doing things that was there before you got there. In fact, there had to be some things that are right about it, or you never would have wanted to go to that culture in the first place. So the most important thing for you to do is to come in and be a student. Be a sponge, actually learn the whys of even the stuff that feels wrong, so that when you get in a position to make the change, you understand the whys and all of that. And I've utilized that in every career shift I've made. I've always come in as a student. I want to learn it. I'm a student of nonprofit right now. I read the publications. I go to the conferences. I have peers that are in this industry because I wanted to build up my peer base. Because if I'm going to be in it, I better be a student because it is a science to it. And every field I've gone to, that's the approach. And I just think it's been transformational in the way and my approach and what I encourage anyone to make changes to.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful. Honestly, I'm really glad I asked that question because that was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. What would you tell the person out there right now? And you do see these people probably on a daily, weekly basis. You got the high schooler. There's two groups. High schooler that is feeling somewhat hopeless because economy, maybe it's AI, maybe it's their circumstances, something happened in their life, somebody got sick, something like there's all sorts of different things, right? Mm-hmm. Would you tell that 18-year-old right now that might be on that last string of hope.
Yeah. Yeah, I first want to understand what's going on. I'd want to understand if they're on the last string of hope. It could be well beyond some motivational talk that I have. I'm going to try and get them some help from some professionals that can really help understand what is going on in their life. I want to make sure that they're healthy. I want to make sure they're mentally healthy and really kind of get there first. So that's where I would start if it was at last hope, and that's what I was triggered to believe it would be. If it were just the lack of motivation and you had a young person that's just feeling like, look, school has never reached me, it's just not for me, and so the thought of what's next, I don't know. That would be something where I would really utilize the club to be that point. I mean, we've got a fantastic program called Industry Clubs, which is just all about taking a common word, which is an industry. Hey, what about the medical profession? You ever thought about the medical profession? I don't do that because without these industry clubs we created, the picture of that industry is already rooted in their brains. I don't want to be a doctor. No, I'm not going to school. Man. I don't want to be a nurse. No, I'm not going to school. They don't even have a full picture. So these industry clubs really were born just to kind of show them all of the intricacies of what an industry might be. So for instance, I would love to do a media industry. People who create commercials and have their agencies and stuff that you do, because when we showcase them and you all are doing a commercial, you know what I'm going to also make sure you bring? The caterers that bring you the food. I want them there because that's an integral part of that industry. I shot so many commercials and that with agencies, and I was like, man, y'all have great food here, man. I didn't know how big of a tie-on to that industry catering and food and hospitality played in such a role. And so broadening their horizons on what's really out there, finding a connection point that they have passion about is really the thing that I would try to do. I try to find that spark in something. And when you see them say, I didn't know that even existed. Yeah, that's a thing. You can go do that. Oh man, that fires me up.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many little parts of a production. Like most people have no idea until they get onto that set.
Exactly.
Right? No idea. Even a makeup artist.
Exactly.
You know? Yep. It's just there to do the quick touch-ups.
Yes. And all I need is a gate to get
ahead. Yeah.
That gateway. Their biology, the equivalent of my biology to them. Biology to chemistry to mechanical to chemical engineering.
Yeah.
It may not be that dramatic, but something that gets the foot in the door for them to just say, oh man, I could do that. Oh, you could earn money making that? Yeah, you can earn money making that. Mm-hmm. I remember talking to a math major of one of the universities. I mean, that should be somebody that would be fired up, right? You would think, I chose this.
I'm fired up about math.
I'm fired about math. He's just like, no, I'm just good at it. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Like, really?
Yeah.
And I remembered, when I was working in, sales and that, how intrigued I was when I found out pricing was a thing. I was like, all you do is price stuff? Yeah.
Psychological pricing.
I'm like, really? Right? And they talked about the psychology of it, the science of it. And then I remember hiring an agency when we wanted to do this reinvention of our pricing structure on a brand that I worked. And these guys got paid a lot of money. They were based out of London. So I told this kid about that. I said, man, you want to live in London?
They got paid more because they had accent.
That's right. But I told him, I said, you want to live in London, man? He said, yeah, I would live in London and do what? I said, price stuff. He's like, price stuff? Like, yeah, dude. And I explained pricing and told him, these are the pathways in. So when these companies come down, I want you to go apply to them. Because he would have never applied to them because he would have never saw a pathway to something that math did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a cool story that is.
When I was in college, I would have struggled too now, but I've seen some people go into those fields with those career paths and they've done some incredible things for their lives.
So what about the people that, maybe they're in the corporate world right now?
Yep.
You talked about, hey, I want to have some more people come join me. What, I'm talking to you that are bored to death and don't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like you've been doing it for 20 years and you're sick of it and you want to make an impact.
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
Perfect. First, I would have them work on their why, especially someone's in corporate 20-something years. If you're struggling with that, you might be struggling with your why. So understand why. Why can you answer why you were born? What was the unique purpose that you were brought on this earth? I would have someone with that much experience, they're going to wrestle with that heavy of a question. I wrestled with that. I actually read a book called The Principles and Power of Vision by a guy named Miles Monroe. And I was in it, man. I was into this whole thing around why was I born. And I mean, today I think I can articulate it well. I think I was born to help drive good business for the great of the community. Every time I worked in corporate, I was doing the business, I was not satisfied until that business not only fulfilled the business need, but something great and unimagined for the community. I'm clear on it. This fits the same thing. There is a business of serving young people. There's a business of getting them ready for their great future. And so, yeah, they're just one and the same now. I feel they're just like there's no separation between them. But in corporate, I would tell them, make sure you understand your why. If you got your why and it explains why you're feeling bored, go pursue what you've just articulated. If you got your why and you can see a way from filling it in corporate, go to that thing in corporate that you fulfill it in, because that's the easiest path.
Eric, you've been inspiring. I love what you're doing here. You've definitely followed your heart and your why. And I think that this is going to be a blessing to a lot of people listening. So thank you. That's the end of this Regenerative Inspiration. Until next time, share and like it, and you know everything else. So have a great one. Until next time, we're out.
Thanks, Wood.